Right. So, welcome again, Sally, to the Zoom room. Thanks for joining us again. So, yeah, let's just we'll go straight into today's session. You haven't very much time, so let me just share my screen quickly. Just going to sort something out. Make sure we get our redirect going for anyone who wants to join us live on YouTube. It redirects from one of the links in the email. So,
what's that then? What do you click on then to get onto the live call then? Oh, I see.
So in the email, I put a link saying if you've missed this, then click here to access the live stream on YouTube. And what I do via redirect is I just put in the live stream. As I've live streamed it now, it gives me the URL, and then I put it into a redirect. So now anyone clicking on that email will be redirected straight into the live stream.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, quite nifty what you can do with IT, really, these days. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, screen. There we go, and there we go. Okay, so that that redirect, that URL, as soon as YouTube gives it to me, I stick it into a redirect here, which is redirecting from the email, mylifebuildervideo.com. And then anyone who clicks on the link in the email will be redirected to the live stream. So that's how that works. Okay, so
okay, the quote.
Read the quote.
But whenever anyone turns to perfect love, the veil is taken away. Now this perfect love is pure formless awareness. And where pure formless awareness of perfect love is, there is freedom. And we, who with an unveiled faces all reflect the pure formless awareness of perfect love's magnificence, are being transformed into its likeness with ever-increasing glory, which comes from pure formless awareness of perfect love.
Yeah, that's an adaptation of a quote in the Bible from Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, or Corinthians 2, however you want to say it. These were letters written by the Apostle Paul to believers at the time living in Corinth, which was a city in ancient Greece. So read the original, and I've included the original just for comparative purposes, so you can see if anything's just see how different it is.
But whenever anyone turns to the Lord, the veil is taken away. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And we, who with unveiled faces all reflect the Lord's glory, are being transformed into its likeness with ever-increasing glory, which comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It's just like a little one step away from feeling it. There's just like a little barrier or a little something in the way of understanding it like that. The other one I could really feel into. I don't feel into that quite so easily.
Well, it's the language, I think. I mean, all I've changed is spirit and Lord. So spirit becomes pure formless awareness. Lord becomes perfect love. You change those words, and I change his into it. You change those words, and the quote changes. It's got a very different. A lot of people would resonate with this, but probably only if you're a traditional Christian would you resonate with this. The idea of Lord, that's actually a mistranslation. Remember, this is all translated out of the original Aramaic, or I think Paul wrote in Hebrew. I'm not sure, but it was all translated, and so they had to pick words. Someone decided, oh well, this is Lord, but actually that maybe wasn't what the original meaning was. Lord is the idea of some overlord, some master dominating presence that's there that you have to accept into your life. It's very kind of hierarchical. Pure formless awareness of perfect love is very open and expansive. It's a state of mind. It's a state of being, rather than some dominant presence that's commanding your obedience. And if you listen to it, then you'll get all kinds of benefits, and if you don't, you'll be punished. I think, unfortunately, that's how a lot of people understand God. So, at some point, we'll translate the entire New Testament.
Will we?
Yeah, why not? Because putting it in alternative language would give it a meaning and help people to access that deeper meaning that often is hidden. How many people read the Bible today? Probably not that many. It's, okay, if I'm traditional Christian, I'll read the Bible, but a lot of sort of so-called new age, Bible, I'm going to read the Bible, you'd be joking. It's like left that behind when I was a teenager, or a kid, and don't want anything to do with it. But there's wisdom in this quote. What he's saying here, there's wisdom here. He's pointing us beyond the veil into this state of being, and that's freedom. And just the words can take you there. Just meditating on this quote can take you there, which is why I said just spend a few minutes, meditate on it, and allow whatever thoughts and feelings to arise, which hopefully would lead you quite nicely into today's lesson, which is about freedom again. So let's dive into that. You want to read the original and then the translated version?
If I am bound, my Father is not free. If I am bound, my source is not free. Yeah. And I wrote on my card today, I am free with source. I do your translation, then I have my own translation.
Okay. Yeah. Sources. Just sorry, say that again. I got distracted. There's multiple things kicking. I've got someone cleaning the windows. Someone just gave me a message. I'm like, okay, just say that again.
Yeah, just written on my card. I wrote your translation, and then I wrote, I am free with source.
Yeah, I'm free with source.
We've all got our different translations, haven't we? But...
Well, the point is, it's not about the words. The words are not sacred or holy, or like, these are the only words. The words are just pointers, symbols twice removed from reality, as Yeshua calls them in the Manual for Teachers. So they're pointers. And if those particular words don't work for you, then use other words to point you to the truth. If I'm bound, source rather than Father, because for a lot of people, Father is the same idea of some kind of presence out there that's a your Lord, your master, your commander, whatever. In the same way as in a patriarchal society, the father was the head of the house. The Lord is going to tell you what to do, and you're going to be an obedient little boy or girl. And this is like this is the great overlord. So it's not really a correct understanding of what this presence is. It doesn't command and dominate. It's subtle and it's gentle and it reminds you. It's a voice for love rather than for commanding obedience.
It's all encompassing. That's the word that comes to me right now.
all encompassing, which is the opposite of being bound. Bound means it's limited. It's within a certain limited boundary. And the picture I chose was like, well, someone's got themselves in this bondage and literally locked themselves into a bondage of belief. That's all it is. It's in beliefs that are doing that to them. What you're really saying, what the lesson is saying, is if I believe I'm bound, then my source cannot be free, because I must be like my source. So then what I'm saying is my source is a very limited, very limited source that is all about bondage, and enslavement rather than about freedom. So that can only be the ego. The ego, remember to have another look in our course manual. Again, we'll have well, we look at this diagram often, but this ego consciousness, belief in separation, Satan sitting at the top of the ladder of separation. That is the belief in limitation. That's the belief in limitation, lack, bondage, and now that becomes the source. That becomes your source, and that becomes as a projected false God. That becomes your God. Concept of a fearful, wrathful, vengeful God, which is a God of bondage. You believe in that God, you're enslaved in your mind to limitation, to lack, to punishment, to death, and so it's a false, totally false concept of God, which this undoes. So just the language, what we've seen here, just using the language starts to undo that conception, doesn't it? Pure formless awareness of perfect love is not a bounded. It's not limited language. It's open language. It's opening you into the experience, rather than a closed. The problem with language is it's closed. It's defined. Lord, defined. Spirit, maybe less defined. You could say maybe the spirit's. I was tempted to keep the spirit, but really, what is the spirit? The spirit is just your pure formless awareness. That's what the spirit is. It's an experience of pure formless awareness. When you were in the spirit, in your mystic experience, you had just pure formless awareness going on. You were in the spirit, weren't you? That's one way of describing it. Which is totally opposite to the idea of Lord dominating, something controlling you. It's just a very gentle, open experience rather than a closed one. So that's why we do the translations to hopefully reveal more of that. And that's why I think it would be valuable, not just with the course, but to do it with certainly the New Testament. The Old Testament's another that's bigger, much more work. But ultimately, why not? Do the whole thing, and now suddenly that document, which for a lot of people really is they don't consider of use or value, suddenly becomes accessible and useful. And they go, oh wow, I can consult. If I'm going to consult the alternative Bible, then that's going to speak to me because it's now written in language that could work. And a lot of people then, Christians, might go, oh wow, actually that's a reinterpretation of my whole Christian faith there. And opening them into more of this kind of interpretation, which was the original. Yeshua was a mystic. He wasn't fixated in closed in the traditional Judaic religion. He came to reinterpret all that. And then over centuries, what happens is that openness gets closed by minds, by other minds, and formalized into a religious structure that's. We have the windows being cleaned. Well, that's symbolic. Cleaning the doors of perception. In the Matrix, do you remember there was a scene in the Matrix where they're cleaning the windows?
Yeah.
That's just kind of symbolic of cleaning the windows of perception. And the window cleaners were actually the Wachowski brothers. If you want to know a little They were actually the producers.
Oh,
A little cameo. They were the window cleaners. Yeah.
oh really? How funny.
just for a laugh. So, bit of Matrix trivia there. Let's have a look at the lesson then, shall we? Okay, so you want to read the alternative? Read the original and then the alternative. If we've got time, we'll do that.
If I accept that I am prisoner within a body in a world in which all things that seem to live appear to die, then is my Father prisoner with me? And this do I believe: when I maintain the laws the world obeys, must I obey. The frailties and the sins which I perceive are real cannot be escaped. And if I bound in any way, I do not know my Father nor myself, and I am lost to all reality. For truth is free, and what is bound is not part of truth.
Okay, so any thoughts on that first up?
Yeah, I love the bit about being a prisoner within the body, because that's one of the things that I like working with. Yeah, just freedom without the body. Yeah, just freedom, really, isn't it? The truth is freedom. Yeah.
Yeah, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Yeah, sure. Okay, so if I accept.
Alternatively, if I accept that I am prisoner within a body in a world in which all things that seem to live appear to die, then is my source prisoner with me. And this I do believe: when I maintain I must obey the laws the world obeys, by believing in the frailties and the sins that I must then perceive are real cannot be escaped. And if I am bound in any way, I do not know my source or myself, and I am lost to all reality. For truth is free, and what is bound is not a part of truth. Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole different look, isn't it? It's like, it used to be, for me, it used to be you either worked on yourself or you worked on the kind of collective consciousness, the overall energy. But this is clearly stating one is false and one is true. Yeah. So
I'm lost to all reality. So he's telling us, if I'm bound in any way, there's no compromise there. Any bondage in my mind, any limitation in any way, then I do not know my source or myself, and I'm lost to all reality. So I'm living in a false reality now. The truth is free, and what is bound is not a part of truth. So again, we have a statement of this non-dual principle. You cannot accept limitation, lack, scarcity, and truth together. No, it's one or the other. You must choose, which one you want to believe in, and you can't accept any part of what's an illusion, what's false, into truth, because then it ceases to become true, which is what we've done. So we've tried to merge truth with illusion, and we live in a world where it's very confusing. We don't know what the truth is and what's illusion. And many spiritual teachings make that mistake. They fudge it because they're dualistic. Oh, well, consider, as a concept of mind, body, and spirit. That's a common kind of New Age belief. Well, you got to look at the mind. There's the body. That's one level of reality. Then there's the mind. Then there's the spirit, and it's kind of a hierarchy, and it's all part of the one. It's all part of the one mind. But he's saying, if you're bound at all, if you believe you have a body, then you are limited and you're bound by the laws the world obeys, and you must believe in the frailties and the sins and the sickness and the death that is all evident in the body. It's self-evident that that's what the body does. Then you deny the spirit. So it's not that the God created all of it, and somehow you've got to make sense of what doesn't make sense. It's a simple, no, that doesn't make sense, so that's unreal. That's not true. That's not part of reality. So you must let that go, and accept only the simple truth. Only the truth is true, he says at some point, and nothing else is true. So the corollary is only the truth is true, but the nothing else is true means that you must exclude everything else. All illusions, all limitation in any form must be excluded, and that's what we're here to learn. Our mind training is to keep reminding ourselves of that over and over and over again, so that ultimately we've rejected all illusion. We've rejected what's false completely. So it's not a part of us. We don't believe in it anymore. Even while we're living here, we don't believe in it. We realize it's just this fiction. It's a dream. It's an illusion. It's the veil. It's completely false. So we just can't believe in it anymore. And you do feel a bit weird sometimes. It's like you're walking in a dream. It's like, what's actually going on here? It's like nothing's actually going on, really. And all the forms of the world just start fading away, and you're not really interested in them anymore. Because you recognize they're all forms of limitation and bondage. Any body that you see is a limitation. It's a lack. It's telling you that pure formless awareness of perfect love is not real. And whenever you perceive someone with the body's eyes and you see them as a body, that's what you're saying to yourself. Pure formless awareness is dead, and the body and form is real and true, and that's the reality. Then I have to accept. So you start realizing just how deeply we've gone into this dream, into this delusion, and only this kind of pure non-dual teaching is gonna get us out, because otherwise we just keep compromising and we keep trying to bring the truth into the illusion, and we fail over and over and over again. You're never going to succeed at that. Okay, so any thoughts, comments, questions on number 1?
Yeah, no, just exactly what you say. A lot of people, me included, I guess, just struggle with putting it in this terminology and just being with it. What am I saying? Yeah, the whole mind, body, and spirit thing. Even that feels quite separate. I don't know.
Yeah, it's still, separate aspects. And if you try and make separation real, you're in the ego. The ego is always trying to make separation real.
Mm.
So it's very cunningly. It's got all kinds of alternatives for us. It's invented its own God. It's invented its own spiritual paths. Hi, Susie.
Hi.
Welcome. Back on this diagram. It's invented its own version of a spiritual path, and it's a path, many paths, in many ways that the ego will lead you down the garden path to reinforce separation. So a lot of these paths lead nowhere. Well, they'll lead you to this. So I'm not saying they're necessarily a bad thing. They might lead you to the point where you finally are ready to accept a non-dual teaching. So that they played their part, but they're not the whole answer. Anything that's making this world real and somehow trying to include this world into reality is false, and it's going to lead you to an inevitable paradox. You're never going to resolve that paradox. If all of this stuff is real, then the paradox is, well, how could a God of love create such an insane, cruel place? And you'll never resolve the paradox as long as you want to make this world real. The resolution lies in pure formless awareness of perfect love alone, in a pure non-dual understanding that only this is true and real, and everything else is not. I mean, what could be simpler, really? And yet it means that you have to completely deny this entire world, which is not the easiest thing to do in the world, is it? while you're living in it, in a body, seemingly, living here. It's not easy at all. And we still have this. I mean, even I was listening to Eckhart Tolle, and he's saying, well, if you're perceiving the atoms and the molecules, and then you make them into a room, then you give it the meaning to the room. The room wouldn't be there without your perception. But it goes beyond that. The atoms and the molecules exist in your mind. They're not some independent reality outside of you. They're only there in your mind. This is what quantum is saying. There's no independent fixed reality at all. It's entirely in your mind. Everything that you see around you is a projection of your mind. Right now, that's what's happening, seemingly happening. It's difficult to comprehend, really. And you've forgotten how you did that. You've forgotten how you projected it all out and how you created all of this. And so now you believe that, well, actually, I'm really here. I am actually the body, and I have the separate identity. And I really do live in this projection of my own mind. The extent of the delusion is extraordinary. But there is no world. And the quantum physicists said exactly the same thing as Yeshua. He says in the Course, there is no world. The quantum physicists in the early part of the last century, when they were starting to realize the implications of what they were finding, said the same thing. There is no world, which freaked him out. He just couldn't get his head around that. One of them, I think, was Schrodinger or Heisenberg, one of the founders, said, I don't like it, and I wish I'd never had anything to do with it. At the end of his life, they interviewed him, said, like, what do you think about this? I don't like it, and I wish I'd never had anything to do with it, because it's freaky. It's like it takes the mind into another domain, which they're not necessarily, the mind's not necessarily ready to go into. So this isn't an easy. It's not. Well, it's simple. It's not an easy thing to accept, and it's certainly going to be a process to fully accept what he's saying. This is a process. It's a work in progress. To fully accept. Okay, this is all unreal. My entire life, everything that I'm experiencing here is unreal. And if I believe in any kind of limitation, which I evidently do, because I seem to be here in a body, I'm lost to all reality. Reality is now denied, and I'm in some kind of parallel alternate reality, which, if I'm honest about it, kind of sucks. It's really not a very nice reality, is it?
Some days I wake up and I think, oh God, this is so much fun.
But it never stays that way. It's things are always in flux. Things are changing, and in the end, you will die. In the end, that's what happens here to everybody. So it's amazing. The human race is even sane. I mean, like you get up every day and well, it's just one day closer to my death, which, if you believe you're a body, means that you end. That's it. End of. End of life, end of existence. You cease to exist. Every day takes you closer to your annihilation. It's a one day anyone is even vaguely sane. And I think part of that is because we just kind of deny it, and we go, okay, well, we don't think about that, and we just think about what's unfolding today. We're present. Maybe there's for more spiritual people, as they go deep into spirituality, they start realizing, well, yeah, that actually is the ultimate truth. Just being present now brings me into the ultimate truth that's beyond death. But it is quite extraordinary when you think of what the human condition is. We're all doomed to die, and yet somehow we have to function in a world where everything is doomed to die, and everything you attempt and try will come to nothing eventually. When you walk through a graveyard, I do that on a nightly dog walk, and you look at all these, you meditate on these gravestones, and you go, these people all existed at some point. They had a life. They had some kind of form identity. They had no doubt problems. They had families. They had problems. They had that whole life, ambitions, fears, desires, and it's all gone. At the end, what remains of their form identity in their life is a dash between the date of birth and the date of death on their gravestone. That's their life, which is kind of sobering. So whatever you believe the ego is, just go look at a gravestone and go, well, that's ultimately it all comes down to a dash. Which Eckhart Tolle says is very depressing to the egoic mind, but is liberating to you, to the true you, because you realize that none of it means anything. And that actually in that dash also lies your freedom, because it's just like, well, actually it's a flat line and there's only actually ever peace. Dash, there's only ever peace. That's the truth. Another way of interpreting it.
Yeah, I find that quite comforting. That
true at all.
just a dash, doesn't matter. Nothing means anything.
Yeah, but the transcendent meaning of it is, well, there is peace always. You say you were chatting to Iona, and there's about peace. There's always that peace, no matter what the situation is, and so that that's ultimately where you go, because we all want peace. And he's saying, well, the price of peace is you must let go of your illusions. You can't keep your illusions and still have peace or freedom. And the words are just freedom, peace, love, joy. They're just pointers into a state of mind, into a state of being that's transcendent, that is actually beyond words. Okay, so happy with number 1. Should we move on to number 2? Susie, if you can read number 2, read the original, Father asks for nothing, and then read the translation.
You want to scroll it down a little bit so I can see that?
Oh, yeah.
That's it, thank you. Father, I ask for nothing but the truth. I have had many foolish thoughts about myself and my creation, and have brought a dream of fear into my mind. Today, I would not dream. I choose the way to you instead of madness and instead of fear. For truth is safe and only love is sure.
Okay. And then read it again in the alternative language and see if any changes for you.
My source, I ask for nothing but the truth. I have had many foolish thoughts about myself and my creation, and have brought a dream of fear into my mind. Today, I do not choose to dream. I choose the way to you instead of madness and fear. For truth is safe and only love is certain.
Okay. Any thoughts or feelings about that?
Yeah, it's I think it makes sense to how I'm feeling at the minute, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to speak about that?
It just feels like well, I think it's weird to describe. I don't think you can describe anything the way you're feeling, because it's an experience that I don't know how to explain sometimes, because all of a sudden, like, I'm out and about and I was doing something, then all of a sudden I've stopped dead, yet felt a real deep stuff, but I don't know if it's deep. It just felt like something's dropping from within me all the time. And feeling very anxious at the minute as well. So I don't know what's going off really. I'm just going with it and allowing it just to be. Yeah, so it's been a few strange days, but it's hard to explain when you say explain, because then it doesn't seem to make sense. So, but I'm all right. It's just I feel a bit weird.
Yeah, it's normal.
No, thanks, Johnny.
It is. As you wake
I seen a friend today, and she says, I says, I'm just uniquely weird at the minute. And she says, oh, I love that. I went, well, okay. But I do feel a bit uniquely weird. I don't know when people are speaking to me, because I don't see a lot of people, but the few that do. And I don't want to say the mind's on overdrive, but it's like trying to figure something out, or are you projecting something that I'm doing in my life or something like that? I even noticed with the dog, he doesn't come round me. Like today, he's kind of subdued, and it's like, there's something going off within me that I can't even see, but he can sense it. So I find it weird. I find it all weird.
Yeah, well, it's shaking everything up. There's difficulty. I've used this before, but it might help you understand it. So the analogy is you've got one of those balls that has everything the right side up, and then you turn it around, and then all of the snowflakes and stuff, snowflake balls, I don't know what you call them. You know what I mean? And you turn it upside down. You turn it upside down, and then it all goes up in the air, up in the ball, and that whole system is now inturbulated. It was in equilibrium, and then you turn it that way, and then everything's got to go up in the air, and it's all a bit chaotic, and then it's got to settle. And so you had a pretty seismic shift about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. I don't remember how long it was, where you really got to the core of your ego identity. You saw it, and there was a turnaround. There was a okay, I'm actually seeing that identity is not who I am. And you really kind of viscerally got it, didn't you? You were like, okay, and so now your old identity's been overturned. And in that process, your entire thought system has been overturned. And now you're trying to figure out how to live again, how to actually function in this world and operate a new self, a new operating system, which is all very unfamiliar. And so it feels uncertain. It feels unstable for a time. But Yeshua says, rather that than the instability of an upside down thought system. He said that was never stable to start with. There was an illusion of stability, but actually it was keeping you in prison.
He's just at the door, sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, when you go through those times where you've taken a big shift and then it takes a while for all the pieces to fall into place again.
And your perception's got to be reorganized, and that feels difficult. It's like, who am I anymore? And do I really understand anything? And what I thought was fixed and certain is no longer that. And so I feel very insecure, very unstable. But he says, in the end, you must recognize that what is in a dream is madness and fear, and only the truth is safe, and only love is certain. And that's there, even if you're not experiencing it right now. You know that state is there, and it's calling you, it's beckoning you home to rest in that state of deep peace and certainty, where you know finally who you are, what you are, what reality is.
This lesson keeps reminding me of like the 1960s and the hippies doing their love is free. And I was just pondering about that, because they kind of, generalization I know, but kind of left the normal egoic thought patterns and focused on free love in a physical way. Maybe I'm wrong in interpreting it like that. I can't remember it, but did they actually access this infinite love, I wonder? But they were certainly working in the right direction, weren't they?
Well, I think some would have. They use substances as well. So if you use mind expanding substances, it does break you out of your prison. Before that, for the 60s, the 50s were very, very restricted. It was very restrictive kind of consciousness. The world had got very kind of dark and narrow. And then along these people came and said, no, we're not having any of this. We want something more. And So they lived, in an alternative way. They took the substances and did whatever else. So it was a movement towards freedom, no doubt. You could say, well, a lot of it was misdirected because they, free love was that really about any kind of spiritual awakening, or was it just, okay, well, great, I can get my rocks off with anyone I choose, great. And so it actually becomes an ego addiction. I'm addicted to sex and drugs and rock and roll, and I no doubt that is what happened for a lot of them. But nevertheless, there was a movement to freedom through all of that. And it did show them and the world, okay, there's actually another way to live. It was we're not just bound into this very limited, narrow thought system that the ego had constructed. There is actually a completely alternative way of living, and they've demonstrated you can do that. You can live this way. And actually, maybe it's more peaceful. Maybe it's a better idea than the very egoic, money-oriented, limited, traditional way of living. So it was almost a start. It was a start of this whole New Age movement, wasn't it? That was the opening, the flowering into something else that then developed, and then after that, many of those hippies became the spiritual students and teachers, because they'd had that experience.
Bye, Susie.
You've got to go. Sorry, I off. Okay. Off you go then. Join us again if you can. So it was all part of this awakening, no doubt, an awakening to something else. And interestingly, the Course in Miracles came in the 60s, 65, when it started. So it was a time where there was clearly like a rebirth happening for humanity. It was the start of it. The hippie movement was the expression of it. But that is that did change the world. I think because of that, there was an opening into something else, and other ideas, less traditional, formal ideas started to come into play, and people started accepting, instead of saying, well, this is terrible and you're a heretic or something. It was like, okay, well, actually maybe there's something to this, and so the whole alternative spirituality, so-called New Age movement, also started around the 60s, 70s, started unfolding. It was really just a rediscovery of a lot of what was ancient wisdom, just being rediscovered and reformatted into a new format. So the ancient Buddhist teaching Vipassana becomes mindfulness, just reformatting something that's already there to make it more acceptable. And then a lot of those hippies would probably have got into mindfulness because their minds have been open to something else, and they might have gone like Ram Dass, classic, hippie, did the whole chemical route, and he said that helped him to a point, but then he realized he was just looking for the next high. He was like, well, what combination of substances is going to give me the experience I want? And he realized there was another bondage and another limitation. So using the substances can be helpful initially, like it opened his mind from that very limited. He grew up as he was Jewish, in the Jewish faith, very traditional Jewish family, and he went to Harvard, and he was in the box. And then suddenly these chemicals came along, and he had an experience that completely took him out of that. And then that opened him up to an exploration, which he dedicated the rest of his life to. And he did start going much more into the mindfulness practices, and he went to India and spent months meditating and learning breath work, because he realized that that the substances weren't it. They weren't the answer. They'd started his journey, but he needed to do the spiritual practices to unveil what he was really looking for, and to make it a stable state. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm looking for another high. It's no, actually that becomes my my default state. Others maybe didn't do that. I don't know. Maybe some of them got stuck in the substance and ended up as drug addicts. One does. Everyone would have had different experiences. So that path, is a double-edged sword. It's like, yeah, you can use drugs to awaken your mind and expand your consciousness, but the danger is you can now, it just becomes another addiction, and you can then think, well, the only way of accessing this altered state is through the drugs, and of course it's never enough. So now I've got to take more of the drug or a different drug to get a different experience. And again, it's magic, using magic to change your mind. So you're not actually, if you get attached to it, you're not making spiritual progress. You need to then let that go and say, okay, well, that was useful, but I need to move into something like A Course in Miracles or another, non-dual path where it's just about working with the mind, and the practices are, yeah, you're not using substances, you're just using your own mind. You're using breath work and meditation to take you deeper into an altered state of consciousness. Okay, so yeah, those are my thoughts on that. So any thoughts, comments, questions on the lesson?
No.
Okay. So should we do a meditation on it? You said you had an hour, so
Yeah.
got another 15 minutes or so?
Another 10 minutes.
Minutes. Okay. So just making yourself comfortable, sitting with your feet shoulder width apart, back straight, cup your hands in your lap, close your eyes, and start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Clenching the sphincter muscle, locking the energy in. Drawing the energy up the spine into your heart center. Put one hand on your heart to connect with your heart space. Just breathe into that. Bring your attention there. You're totally present to your breath and the sensations of your breath and the feeling of your hand on your heart. Breathe it all in. Now look at your mind and notice any thoughts that somehow counter or contradict this freedom you're experiencing. Maybe a little bit of anxiety, some frustration, anger, a little bit of guilt, sadness, and whatever else. And you just observe these little fragments of the ego's thought system. Again, breathe into them. So you're creating some space, which is light, awareness around them. Remind yourself that if I am bound, my source is not free. What I'm really saying is that my source is limited as I am, which is crazy. Source is unlimited and eternal. So I'm willing to let it go right now. Just exhale and blow it away with the breeze of your breath to the nothingness that it really is. Going, gone. Blow it away like a dark cloud. Just rest here. In the gap between breaths, you find a stillness in your mind, peace. And then just watch your breath, breathing in and out through your nose. It's nice, still, calm, gentle rhythm. Just observe the breath flowing into the nostrils and out of the nostrils. And if any thoughts arise, you just turn your attention to the breath. And this helps your formless awareness, your source, to arise in your awareness. And so as you continue to breathe and just watch your breath, listen to these words from today's lesson. If I accept that I am a prisoner within a body, in a world in which all things that seem to live appear to die, then my source is prisoner with me. So I'm enslaving my source. And this I do believe when I maintain I must obey the laws the world obeys by believing in the frailties and the sins, which I must then perceive are real and cannot be escaped. So the product of any belief in limitation is we put ourselves in bondage to an unreal world, an illusion. If I am bound in any way, I do not know my source or myself. And so I am lost to all reality. For truth is free, and what is bound is not a part of truth. So just let these words percolate into your mind. Keep watching the breath. Just allow the empty, open, spacious awareness, the pure, formless awareness of perfect love. This is your source to arise in your awareness, telling you that these words are true, taking you beyond any limited thoughts or emotions. And so address the source and say, my source, I ask for nothing but the truth. I've had many foolish thoughts about myself and my creation. And it brought a dream of fear into my mind. Today, I do not choose to dream. I choose instead the way to you, instead of madness and fear. The truth is safe, and only love is certain. And with that, just rest in this certainty of the truth. There's nothing else to do, and there's nowhere else to go, nothing else to think about. Just rest in this deep peace and certainty for the next couple of minutes of deep silence. And any thoughts, emotions, sensations that are limiting, contracted in any way come up. Breathe into them, remind yourself, if I am bound, what I'm saying is my source is not free. That's ridiculous. I am free in my source right now. And you exhale. And just blow it all away with the breeze of your breath. And sink into the pure, formless awareness, perfect love that is your true self, your true awareness. Another minute of deep silence. And so just gently coming back to the body and the breath and the senses and the world. On the count of 3, you open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in. Noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Scan your mind, notice any thoughts, emotions, body sensations going on, particularly anything that feels negative, limiting, contracted, constricting in any way. And you're just going to let it go one more time. So if I'm bound, my source isn't free, and I am free in my source. And you exhale and just let it go. Notice how the air flows out on the count of 2, chest and the stomach suck back in. Come to rest. Your lower stomach and your groin. Notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, feet touching the ground. Notice what you're feeling with your hands touching. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth. Smell in your nose. Notice what you're hearing. From a state of pure awareness, no judgment, no interpretation. The world is just moving parts, moving, shifting, changing, but this awareness doesn't change. So everything that you perceive is infused with this deep peace. And so you're going to carry that peace with you into the rest of the day. Practice today's lesson frequently. Ideally every hour. Yeshua recommends using today's breath break that I sent you, or the instructions I gave you in your email or telegram message. So practice it frequently, and that should keep you connected to the source and in the peace of God, which is what I wish for you. And so on the count of 3, open your eyes. Just look around for a minute or so. Observe the various objects in the room. In this very clear, calm, aware state. Notice that it doesn't matter what you're looking at, the awareness is the same. So you're training your mind that only this awareness is real and true. And to stay rooted in that true perception, it's called, or Christ's vision, which is what I wish for you for the rest of the afternoon and evening. Just to let you know, Sally, there is a session happening tonight on the development of trust, section 4 of the Manual for Teachers, which is a really good section. So if you can make it, I made it earlier at 6 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
So if you can make it at 6, join us, because it's a very profound section, which goes through the 6 stages. I think we've looked at it. We've looked at 1 or 2 of those before, but never the full 6. So if you can make it at 6, then join again then.
All right. Okay. Thanks very much.
Okay. Are you going to join then?
I'm going to aim to. Yes. I don't promise.
Okay. All right. Hopefully see you then.
All right. See you
Otherwise
later.
tomorrow. Okay.
Bye.
Namaste. Yeah, so if anyone's listening to the live stream, join us again at 6 p.m. UK time. That's 8 p.m. South African time for the evening session, where we'll discuss section 4.1, the Manual for Teachers, which is on trust and the development of trust, which is very interesting. It's really a description of the spiritual journey from Yeshua's perspective. So I hope to see you then. And yeah, I must stay for the meantime, which means the free self in me acknowledges and honors that same free self.